Okay, guys. So here's the second piece of today, that how to solve an equation with fractions going on. So the number one thing that you want to do is you want to multiply both sides or everything that you see by the least common denominator. Now, the way that you identify the least common denominator, if you think about even fractions like 1/2 plus 2/3, if we're looking at those two denominators, the kind of surefire way to get a common denominator is to multiply them together. So that might not be the least common, but that is going to give you a common denominator. So for our case, the least common denominator is going to be x times the quantity x minus 2. And we're going to multiply every single term you see by x quantity x minus 2. Okay, so that's our first thing, is that we're multiplying everything by the least common denominator. The second thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cancel to simplify some things and then do some distribution. So if we're looking top to bottom, this x is going to be crossed out with this x. It's going to cancel top to bottom. X minus 2 factor cancels with that x minus 2. And now we can distribute. So our 2 goes to the x and also the 2, so 2x minus 4. The 3x is what's left in that first term. And then this last term, be very careful because you're distributing negative 1x to both of those pieces. Okay, don't forget about the negative. So we're going to have minus x squared, but then that's going to turn to a plus because it's a negative 1 minus 2. So it's going to turn into a positive 2x at that step. Okay, so from there, now you can go ahead and combine like terms and simplify. So when we look at this, I'm going to go ahead and combine the right-hand side to give us 5x minus x squared. And then from there, I'm going to move things across the equality and get it set equal to 0. So I'm going to have a positive x squared when I move it to the left. When I subtract 5x from each side, I'm going to have minus 3x minus 4. So I just moved these across the equality, changing the signs as I did it. From here, now you're at a quadratic, and so in this case, we can factor, but keep in mind, you may not always be able to factor. You may have to use quadratic formula or some of your other tools. So here we have quantity x minus 4, quantity x plus 1. So you get x equals a positive 4 or a negative 1. Now, you do not have to go in and check it fully, like what you did for the square roots or the radicals. But what you do want to check is if you plug in 4 into your denominators, is it going to give you a denominator of 0? And it won't. Same thing with negative 1. If I plug it in, will that give me a denominator of 0 anywhere? And again, it won't. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at another example. First step is to identify the least common denominator. So again, we're going to multiply by x and then the quantity x plus 5, so the two denominators. And we're going to do that to everything. A lot of times people will forget to do that to the right-hand side. Please make sure you do it to all terms that you see. So we're going to cancel top to bottom. The x will cancel with the x. The x plus 5 will cancel with the x plus 5. And now we can distribute. So that 6 goes to both parts. So I'm left with 6x plus 30. If I distribute my 8x, it's going to become, excuse me, if I distribute my 8, I don't have anything to distribute to because I crossed off that entire factor. So it's just 8x. And then again, I'm going to distribute 3x to both of those terms on the right-hand side. So it becomes 3x squared plus 15x. Again, I can go ahead and combine my like terms. So I have 14x on the left. And then I can move those to get a equal to 0. So I'm going to have 0 equals 3x squared plus x minus 30. Okay, so hopefully now that you're at that point, again, you're going to be able to solve that quadratic by either factoring or doing completing the square or quadratic formula. Here's the thing. You don't want to do completing the square when you have that number in front of x squared. So either do quadratic formula or factoring. Okay, in this case, you could factor, but I'm going to go ahead and skip that step to save us a little bit of time. If you're having problems solving those quadratics, please let me know. But again, you can factor in this case, or you could use the quadratic formula, whichever you find easiest. All right, the last one. This one is going to take us a little bit of time because we have to factor our first denominator to start with. So if we look at x squared minus 4, this is a case where you have difference of squares. So it's x plus 2, x minus 2. And I'm actually going to cross that off because I didn't add that in, I just rewrote it. So our least common denominator that we're going to use is going to be x plus 2, x minus 2. Now somebody might say, but wait, we didn't use this one. But we did. As long as that is identified in that least common denominator, we're good to go. So the key is, if there was more than one of those x plus 2's within the same fraction, then we would have to use multiple x plus 2 factors. But because they don't occur more than once within the same fraction, we're good to just use the LCD that you see up here already, okay? So now we're going to go ahead and multiply everything by the x plus 2, x minus 2. And again, we're going to do all parts, so the left side and also the right side. Okay? So when we look at this, the whole top and bottom cancels. Here, x plus 2 cancels. On the right-hand side, nothing cancels. So on the left, we have x. The second term, 1, when we distribute that into the x minus 2, it just stays x minus 2. The right side, remember where this came from. This started off as x squared minus 4. So we can think about distributing that 3 to both parts at that point. So we have 3x squared minus 12. That will eliminate some work for us in the long run. All right, so at this point, we can go ahead and combine like terms. Move everything over, get it set equal to 0. So we're going to subtract 2x from each side. We're going to add 2. So we get 0 equals 3x squared minus 2x minus 10. Now, when I look at this problem, this is one that you will not be able to factor. So the only way that you would have to solve this is the quadratic formula. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just put a little star here. You can run the numbers if you want. I am going to go ahead and give you the answer to save us, again, a little bit of time. Hopefully this quadratic formula is something you're familiar enough with that you don't need the extra practice. If you do, feel free to take advantage of the time to practice. Okay? So, again, once you get to this step right here, that's just solving the quadratics that we've done the last couple of days. Okay? Our main goal for me today, or for you, is to be able to get to that point by multiplying by those LCDs and simplifying appropriately. Okay? So, as always, guys, if you have questions, ask. I know that sometimes these videos, I get to talking quickly. Please pause whenever necessary. Go back and review anything that you need. And most of all, ask questions if you've got them. All right? Thanks, guys.